Welcome, everybody, to the first edition of Make Your Mind Your Best Ally. So today I have my co-host and friend, Dr. Anne-Marie Balkanski, and myself, Martha Garzon. I'm a former professional tennis player, former coach, and online coach now. And I'm going to let Anne-Marie introduce herself.
Thank you for having me. I am Dr. Anne-Marie Balkanski. I'm a medical doctor, but I'm primarily a certified clinical hypnotherapist. So I master the mind. So people consider me more of a mind coach.
Cool. All right. So this is a very formal podcast. And basically, I just want to pick your brain, ask you some questions. I've gone through some sports therapy before in my life. And luckily, there was hope for me. So anyway. So the first thing I want to talk about is the name of the podcast. It implies, and I did it on purpose, that our mind is not our best ally, right?
For sure.
So why is that?
I mean, I would say that most of us have not really trained on how to understand the mind. And I think that's the biggest issue. And when it comes to playing sports, I would say, the ability to have the mental fortitude or the awareness of, come on, I think anybody that has played sports knows, you overthink something, you're done. You're out. And so being able to understand the mind, to quickly get out of it, to not overthink things, to really get into the body more than anything. And people focus more on the thinking mind than their body. The body is also part of the mind as opposed to just that voice that you hear up there. And
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that happened to me, and I got to the conclusion that a lot of my issues were because of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has a lot to do with your mind not really being your friend and sometimes becoming your worst enemy, your worst nightmare. So why is that? Why do we have that duality of one good voice and one bad voice?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I definitely want to clarify what types of self-esteem there are. There's situational self-esteem, and then there's characterological self-esteem. And so if we're talking specifically about sports, there is a situational self-esteem that one can build. But there's also a characterological self-esteem that is such the core of who you are. That characterological self-esteem is like your beliefs and the value that you believe that you bring and your capabilities. And to repeat the question again, say it again.
Why is it that we have that duality? The basically the good voice and the bad voice?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we are our biggest critic, aren't we? And the voice that you hear up there is primarily developed between the age of 5 and 12. The voice that you hear is so influenced by your authority figures throughout your childhood. And if we don't have positive authority figures around us throughout our upbringing, and that doesn't only include your parents, that includes society, teachers, police, doctors, any authority figure around you. If the talk was negative, that can influence your self-talk and how you perceive who you are because of maybe situations or people around you as you grew up. So we do create almost this I think of the angel, right? Good angel, bad angel, or the devil and the angel. And, we have so many different parts that are created. We have bad parts, and they're not necessarily bad, but we perceive them as being bad parts because they're not kind to us. They don't talk good to us. And I can guarantee that those parts are developed from sometime in our childhood, especially. And they kind of compounded throughout our adult life. And sometimes people aren't even aware of it, of the voices that they hear or the parts that they hear. And that's why people will even be in conflict, part of me wants to go out. A part of me doesn't want to go out. And, we have so many different parts that make up who we are. And that's because of all the events and experiences we had throughout our childhood.
Okay.
That build the foundation of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I used to be very destructive when I was playing. And I saw a lot of players that were the same way. And, that leads to my next question. Why does winning or losing make Why do we make it so important and meaningful?
That's a big question. Why do we make it so meaningful? Well, that's just it. We make it meaningful. Like we're the ones that define what winning is. And society has also defined what winning is. And, for someone that's, especially professionals, right? If you're playing professional sports, there's so much pressure on being at a certain hierarchy or level. And man, that pressure, especially if you're already good. I've worked with people where they're so good already immediately, and the moments that they've lost or didn't win, it's pretty traumatizing, right? And then you have to learn how to be a good loser too, to learn from your mistakes and to learn how to be even better, because those are not losses. Those are just experiences. Those are our lessons more than anything. Our losses are our lessons. I just thought of that.
Yeah, no, and that's actually very cool, because thanks to the help of my sports psychologist, I came to that conclusion that you learn a lot when you lose.
Mm-hmm.
What it is that you need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
If everything was perfect, then, it would be boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it would.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and to me, at the end of the day, I ended up finding out that the meaning, the reason why I was playing tennis, it was to prove something to someone.
Mm-hmm.
That I could actually make a living playing tennis, and that it wouldn't have to be something, average, like being a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. I wanted to be a tennis player, but I was always like chasing that carrot that would always keep moving, because it wasn't for me, it was for somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's so much in this question that you're even going even deeper into it, which I love, because that we go to purpose. Like, what is your purpose of playing, and why are you playing, and how are you defining winning, and what is it that you're getting out of it? And for you, winning was more of a sense of acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the purpose why maybe some people are playing, is because they want to be accepted, as opposed to playing for the pure fun of the game.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's so simple,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much involved in it. And at the end of the day, we get so buried in between all the equipment and the eating and the sleeping. And I lost because I didn't sleep well, and I won because of this. And, that person is not. And we create all these stories. And at the end of the day, you should play because you like it and because you can, right?
Yeah.
It should be, if it was that simple.
Yeah.
We wouldn't need this podcast, right? That's Tiki. Sorry, I had to let her be. So, what would be your advice to finding out what is the meaning that we have behind playing? What kind of questions should we be asking ourselves?
I would say go ahead and project forward and say, what is it that what will you get out of this? And let's say, when I'm helping someone with really coming to a conclusion of like, why are they doing this? Because I work with people where maybe they're doing for their family or their parents, and they were just so down and depressed and sad about it. And, I really had them think about it. Okay, what if? Let's just go through that. What if you do, become the top player or pro, or various sports. I've worked with people, so depending on the sports, like what if you did win? What if you did get a title? What if this did happen? Then what? Then what is it that you would feel or achieve? And they run through that and they really think about that, and they see in the end, because in the end there will be an end where it's like, okay, what's next? And, and it's interesting to hear what they'll say. They'll say, oh, well, I'll get acceptance. I'll be seen, that I'm number one, or I'll be loved. I'll be this. And all the things that they express truly show, like, what is your motive? Why are you doing it? What is your purpose behind it? And so I would say project yourself forward and say, okay, what if you got this? Whatever that position or places that you're looking to achieve within the sports that you're playing.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very interesting. I also thought in my case it was I had no control over the reason why I was playing tennis. So therefore the example of the carrot that just kept going forward and forward, because I was never going to convince that person that I could actually make a living playing tennis. So control, that's one thing that there's a great saying that somebody said to me. Anxiety comes from worrying about the things that you cannot control. So maybe can you talk a little bit about control?
Oh, that's another big topic.
That's another big topic. But just a little bit.
Absolutely. Control. I think gosh, 98% of the population, and probably 2%, they're all like probably in monasteries and Buddhist or whatnot.
Yeah.
But we all have this fear of losing control, and we want control. I mean, there's no such thing though. I mean, there's so many things that are out of our control. The economical position our country's in, or the weather, and your partner. If you're playing doubles, your partner, you can't control how they're going to react, where they're going to move. And the only thing that we really do have control is what you do, what you choose to do next, and to learn from your past patterns and to move forward, because it's inevitable that things are going to change, even you. And your emotions will change, your body changes. I mean, think about that. Your cells are not the same cells that you've had just 7 years ago. The lenses that you see the world through have changed. So the lenses you have today are not the same lenses in your eyes that you had 10 years ago. And so everything is constantly changing. Nothing is meant to stay the same. And it's not easy to just let go, to just kind of accept that.
Yeah.
It's probably something I'm still working on,
So you are human. That's good to know.
I'm 100% human.
That's sticky again. So on the same topic of control, we, for the most part, we have a sport that's outdoors. So there's so many things we can't control, like the weather, like the wind, like the opponent, like, and one thing that it really freed me was to not look for excuses, because sometimes I would be like, oh, I've always lost in wind, I've always, if I don't eat before, then I'm going to lose. Or if I eat before, then I'm going to lose. So it's like I was looking for all these reasons rather than just kind of accepting. Is it accepting responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely.
Accepting the control that.
Absolutely. And you're creating rituals, and that you'll see rituals with, and it helps to a point, right? To be able to have maybe certain rituals, prayers, mantras. I mean, whatever it may be, like, oh, I need to do this in order to pump yourself up. Those are positive rituals. But if we're creating negative rituals where it's going to create even further anxiety, because now it's like, oh my God, I the weather needs to be this way or I'm going to lose.
Right.
Right. And then it just already puts you in that frame of mind that you're going to lose. And it's not the weather. it's not the weather. There is a level of control that you have to choose, okay, how am I going to respond to the weather change? How am I going to respond to my opponent, or maybe you're having an off day, or whatever it is. Like, there's just, you just got to choose to turn around as quickly as possible and get out of it.
That's great, because you just, you led me to my last question. What kinds of rituals can we build to help self-esteem and to help, our control?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, number one is going to be positive self-talk. Be aware of what you're telling yourself. It's funny, like you're bringing it up about, if the weather is bad, then I'm not gonna win, or I'm not gonna play well. Be aware of that. Simply, just be aware of that, and how you maybe negatively condition yourself to not win already by even telling yourself that if the weather is cloudy, I'm not gonna do well. You're already putting yourself into that state. So it's like this self-sabotaging thought process or pattern. So the positive rituals we're going to want to have. One of the things that I've done with my clients, which is super easy, is start to create anchors and triggers. Anchors and triggers are basically just words or phrases that are the trigger words, like "you got this," or a positive word that just associates you with maybe a good feeling. Like, let's say, I went to the beach earlier, and my word may be beach or sunshine, and because I'm feeling so good when I'm at the beach and I have that sunshine, and what you're doing is you're conditioning yourself to that sound that you're telling yourself. So it becomes almost like a mantra. So it's kind of like kind of like Tiki. If Tiki hears the food, like her food hit the bowl,
right?
She comes running over because she's conditioned
to that.
She's conditioned to that sound that she has. She hears with the food. So that's a trigger. But the anchor is basically a motion that you can do, and so it's kind of a ritual. It's a motion either. When I played with sports players, they'll usually do something simple like tapping their finger or creating an okay sign. But it's important to do those things when you're feeling good, when you are in a good space, when you had a really good day. And those can be really good rituals that you can do before a game to bring in like those positive feelings into that experience because you're conditioning yourself. That makes sense.
That's super, super true. And just my 2 cents on certain rituals. Like, for example, when I'm serving, I want to bounce the ball 3 times. And if I don't do it, then it's not going to feel the same. And you have to be able to respect that because it's your ritual, and if you couldn't do it, then also, be forgiving of yourself because my ritual was maybe eating 2 hours before the match and I couldn't do it.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean I'm doomed, to lose. There's always room for improvement and to improvise.
Yeah, those are positive rituals.
So,
positive rituals because you're not telling yourself you're going to lose if you don't do this. You're just, it's kind of like you're telling yourself, okay, you're going to be optimal, right? Your body's not going to be digesting and feeling uncomfortable right before. And so you have, there's logic to that.
Yeah.
And you learn from, trust me, I know about the food. I ate, it was even only 3 hours before I was running and I was like, last time I do that.
You're going to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a positive ritual. The ball, I love that. It's a positive ritual because it's kind of, one of my favorite rituals is the breath. So for me, I take 3 breaths whenever I'm doing something. If it's like, I'm very conditioned to my breath. So I will purposely be mindful of my breath and take really deep breaths. And then I'm conditioned to just be super, super relaxed, when I do that. And so that could be like kind of like bouncing the ball 3 times.
That's cool. That's awesome. We could talk about this forever. And I thought this was going to be hard, but this is so cool because I get to pick her brain and then one thing leads to another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, but that's all the time that we have for today. And I want to thank you, Anne-Marie, and I want to thank you guys for your support. And we made it through our first podcast and we're going to keep doing this. So please be sure to write any questions on anything that you guys want us to talk about, and we will do it. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.